Friends, welcome to part 5 of our video presentation on Tutorial C that can also be found in your textbook. In this part of our video presentation, I'll show you how to automatically input various parameters into your decision support system using the built-in Scenario Manager feature of Microsoft Excel. And then after that, I will show you how you can format the results of the scenarios that you generate with the help of the built-in function of Microsoft Excel called Scenario Manager. And then I'll show you how to visualize those results, and also we'll talk about interpreting those results. So in the previous part, we built a decision support system using this Excel sheet that looks something like this, or exactly like this. So if you can recall, we have the so-called input section because this is the section that we use for input various parameters into our model or decision support system. Now if you look at the possible inputs, they are related either to economic output or to inflation outlook. And each type of input has two values, R for recession and B for boom for the economic outlook, and then high for inflation, inflation outlook can be either high or low. So all in all, we have 4 different scenarios. So we can have 4 different combinations of results depending on the kind of parameters we enter here. So we can have RH, RL, BH, and BL, 4 different scenarios. Well, how do you summarize and visualize the results of those 4 different scenarios? Well, one way to do this is to enter those 4 scenarios here, and once you enter 4 different combinations for economic outlook and the inflation outlook, so once you enter those 4 different combinations, you will have 4 different Excel sheets. And then what you can do, in theory, you can copy results from those 4 different Excel sheets and compare them side by side to interpret the results and make a conclusion about whether the thrift shop should expand or not, giving those 4 different scenarios. So this is one way, the brute force way to do it. As it turns out, there's an easier way to do it. You can automatically input different parameters using the so-called Scenario Manager feature of Microsoft Excel. To use this feature, you need to go to the Data tab right here, and then you go to What If Analysis. And here you select the so-called Scenario Manager. Now here you see that there are already 4 scenarios that somebody entered. You may have the same thing in your Excel sheet if you use the skeleton. But for now, I'll just delete all those scenarios to show you how to build those scenarios from scratch. Now, to add a particular scenario, you need to press the Add button. And what we're going to do, we're going to add 4 scenarios that we just discussed a minute ago. And then we'll let Excel generate those 4 scenarios, and more specifically generate summaries of those 4 scenarios. So we'll enter 4 scenarios one by one. So let's start with the first scenario. The first scenario will be named Recession, High inflation. Okay, so that's one combination. Now, which cells do we need to change? Well, you need to select that the changing cells are right here. And notice those cells are entered in that constant format by using the $sign, meaning the values will not change. Okay? And I don't need any comments here, so I'll delete it. But you can add comments to make sure you remember what the scenario is all about. So after you name it, after you press the changing cells, you press OK. Now, next it will ask you what kind of values you want to enter for this scenario. So the values will be R and H. Okay, that's the first combination. So you press OK. And then what you will do, you will enter next 3 combinations, and I'll do it very quickly, because the principle is the same. I'll just use different letters to reflect those different combinations. So I will add recession, low inflation. Again, those are the changing cells. The values will be here, like this. Then I will add boom, high inflation. Again, the cells are the same. The values will be like this. and then I will add boom, low inflation. Again, same cells, but the values will be B and L. Okay. So now we have 4 different scenarios entered. So let's check whether they're correct. Okay. BH. Okay, seems to be correct. So here it's RL. Yeah, so seems to be correct, but we haven't checked all of them. So once we enter those 4 different scenarios, we'll generate a summary of those scenarios. So you press on the summary button, and here what the scenario manager is asking you, it's asking what kind of cells you want to see as an output for those 4 different scenarios, because depending on those scenarios, a lot of cells will change in our decision support model. So the kind of cells we want these 4 cells. In other words, we want to see for year 2017, we want to see what will happen with net income and cash on hand if we decide to expand, and what will happen if we with net income and cash on hand if we decide not to expand. Okay, so we select these 4 cells. So we press OK, and here we have our summary. So automatically Excel generates the summary for us. So you see, like here you have different combinations: RH, RL, BH, and BL, and you have corresponding results for each of those combinations. Now what I will do, I will just reformat this table a little bit to make it a bit more a bit easier to understand for a decision maker. Now the first thing I will do, I will go to View, and I will activate grid lines, because sometimes it's difficult to format cells when you don't see like which cell you're exactly in. Okay. Now the second thing I will do, I will delete this column, because this column represents current values, whatever you currently have in your Excel sheet. Okay. Now the reason you don't need current values is because the combination RH is already modeled here during the for the recession high inflation scenario. So I'll just delete it. Okay. And then what I will do, I'll just left align those values to make it easier to see. So those are the combinations. Right, those are the numbers. You can resize the columns if you want to, just to make it look a bit better, but I'm not going to spend time doing that. Okay. Maybe to remove some information, you can delete some of those rows. If you feel that you don't need spell. I will change the title of this table. I will call it Thrift Shop Expansion Scenario. Hopefully I spelled it correctly. Scenarios for the year 2017. I'll just call it scenarios for the year 2017. Okay. I don't know whether we need those cells, so maybe I'll just delete it. I do want to see those combinations, just to have like a quick way to understand what this scenario is all about. Maybe we don't need this. Now maybe we want to keep track of those cells, because we want to see like which cells are being outputted. Anyway, it's up to you how maybe you can simplify it by deleting a lot of that extra information. But what I will add the names of those output variables right here. And what I will do, I'll just go back to the skeleton sheet. Remember, we specified that we want to have those numbers as an output for scenario summary, and I'll just copy the names for those values. I'll come back here and I'll paste them right here. And then I'll just format them using the format that is already available right here. Okay. So now we see what is the name for this specific value, what is the label for each specific value. Okay. What you can also do, you can create a chart for this output. In order to do that, you need to select those numbers, and then you need to go to Insert, and here you have different types of charts. Now I'll use the same type of chart that is used in your textbook. I'll select 3D columns. So you just select this design, although you can explore other designs that can be generated. But I'll select this design. So here we go. So here's our chart. And what I will do first, I will increase the size of this chart a little bit. And what I will do next, I will change the title, and I'll just copy it from here. Sorry. Just double click and insert the name here, and then I'll realign it. Okay. Now this graph, this chart is a bit hard to interpret because the labels haven't been appropriately set up. Okay. And I'll show you, by the way, there are many changes that you can do to this chart, and I urge you to explore like all those different features that can be shown or hidden, different formatting options like for style and color. But what I will do, I will just deal with values a little bit. Okay, so here we have values, and then we can select data for those values, and we also can select captions for those values. So right now, you see like all those colors, they just say, it just says Series 1, Series 2, Series 3, Series 4. Okay. In reality, what those things are, they're net income for expansion, end of year cash for expansion, and then net income for no expansion, and end of year cash for no expansion. Right. So this is what those things represent. Okay. So what I'll do, I'll just I'll click on Value and Names button or tab, and then I'll just select data for it. Now I will edit Series 1. The data for it is the same. It comes from this row. Okay. However, the name I'll select from here. Okay. So I'll just press this button. Sorry. So I'll do it again. I don't know what I entered. So the data comes from here, and then the name comes from here. Okay, and I just hit enter. So when you press OK, you see that now the label changed. It says net income after taxes expense, and that's exactly what we want. We'll do the same thing here. We'll keep the values the same. For the name, we'll select end of year cash on hand expansion. Press enter. Okay, and then the same thing for this. So the name will be right here. Okay, and then finally for Series 4, we get the name from here. Okay, so now it's a bit easier to interpret because we see what colors represent. And we'll do the same thing for these labels, because these labels, they represent scenarios. So we press Edit. So the label will come from here, right? So this is our first label, recession, high inflation. Same thing for here. We select it and then we edit it. The label will come from here, the second label. I don't know what that, 1 second. I think I deleted it by accident. Yeah, so I'll just discard it. I think I deleted this caption and now it's not generating anything. So I'll do it once again. I'll just press here, select data. So I'll press edit. So the name will come from here. Press OK. And I edit. The name will come from here. Yes, so I selected all of them. Yeah, so it's just like, it's not one by one, it's like a whole range. So I don't know why it skipped to this feature, but you see I selected the whole range for this label. And here, I will select names one by one. so I'm doing it quickly. Okay, so I press OK, and now you see everything is appropriately labeled, so it's easy to understand what colors represent and what those sets of bars represent. So this is net income. So the first two bars are net income and end of year cash if we expand for 2017, and this is net income and amount of cash if we don't expand. Okay. So I just showed you like an example of generating a chart based on the output data. But I think you don't need for this specific case you don't need a graph to interpret the results. I mean, if you look at the results, and what I suggest, just pause for a minute and look at the results of those four scenarios and tell me what kind of conclusion you can make from those results. So please pause and think about it. But I'll tell you, I'll tell you, what the interpretation could be. You see, for the year 2017, if you look at net income for all four scenarios, right, recession or no recession, inflation or no inflation, it looks like if you expand, net income will be higher. You see, this value is higher than this value. This value is higher than this value. This value is slightly higher than this value, and this value is slightly higher than this value. So net income will be higher due to expansion, no matter what kind of scenario actually materializes. Even for cash, you have the same situation. You see, cash, if you expand, seems to be higher, at least by a little bit, for all scenarios. Okay. So in giving those results, the overall conclusion is a no-brainer. It means that no matter which scenario plays out, you'll be better off expanding. Okay. So this is what your analysis. This is the ultimate conclusion that your analysis leads to. If you expand, you will be better off based on net income and cash indicators. So because of that, again, assuming that your parameters and your assumptions are reasonable, you should go ahead and borrow money to finance your thrift shop expansion. Okay, friends, so this concludes part 5 of our video tutorial on tutorial C, found in your textbook. You need to go through those exercises in order to prepare yourself for your next assignment. So thank you very much for listening. Talk to you later.